Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. It's good to have you in the audience, and it's good to be back live after quite an absence, whether you're watching us tonight live or sorry, I'm not laughing at some of the comments already, or if you're listening to us as an audio podcast, we're really glad you're in the audience. So yes. Joe Conjal says, hi, Rob and Joan. Welcome back. Thank you, Joe. We're really, really happy to be back. I love doing the live show. Paul Hollis says, welcome back from Spookyville, Joan and Rob. It was really, really spooky.
We ran all the way back.
Yeah. We had a really good time. We weren't scared. We had a wonderful time.
We weren't scared. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here we are.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Want to remind everybody every Thursday night, 9:00, WDJYFM.com. You can listen to our show. Also, broadcasting on 99.1 FM radio in Atlanta, Georgia, every Thursday, 9:00. This week, tomorrow, July 4th, you can listen to R.J. Eastwood and Megastar, his episode there. 9:00 Eastern Time here in the U.S. Next week, we have Sarah Driscoll, the author of Echoes of Memory. It's this book right here. It's about a woman who has a traumatic brain injury from an assault and witnesses a murder, and then it sounds like a really interesting book. The only news we have right now is there's two books right now in the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles that I'd like to highlight. The first one's available now. It just came out a week.
The 20th.
The 20th. Just Dying to Glamp by April Nunn Coker.
That's good.
Book 25. Jones read it and really enjoyed it. I think, and I don't know how long it's going to be, but right now it's at 99 cents on the Kindle version. So you want to grab it if you can. Just Dying to Glamp. And then the other one is on pre-order. It's by Joe Conjal in our audience right now. Catch a Tiger by the Toe. I'm sorry, I always write that. Catch a Tiger by the Toe. You need to change the name of that, Joe. Anyway, available for pre-order at 99 cents, and that'll be releasing then on July 23rd. And the previews we've had of it are astounding.
And Marjorie Deering's in the audience, and she said, glad to have you two back in person. Sorry I missed 2 broadcasts last week. Part of my computer screen went black. I just got it back from the shop with a brand new screen. I'm just the same as always. I am so excited that you're in the audience because I've been so anxious to tell you. We went to a Scream Fest as participants. We were vendors. And I kept thinking it would be so great if you were there, Marjorie, because most of the authors were horror writers, and we just had such a good time.
And filmmakers, yeah.
yeah, there were a lot of filmmakers there too. We met a lot of people and had a lot of good contacts, and actually it was our team, the Tampa Bay Spirits. We had 2 tables, but we also brought our books for sale. But we made a lot of contacts, and a lot of people have asked for us to take them on an investigation. So we're planning on having a large venue where we can just teach a lot of people how to do it. And actually, while we were there at the place that we were at, we actually had contact from a spirit, which we weren't expecting. Right there. Marjorie said, "I wish I could have been there." Oh my gosh, you would have loved it. I mean, for us, we're going back next year. We already told him that we would, but it was like, oh my gosh, we finally met our people. I mean, none of them thought we were crazy because of what we do. Joe Conjos, late, you'll have to learn the name.
Okay.
Catch a tiger by the toe.
Okay, got it.
Anyway, I know that was a lot, but I have been really excited to tell Marjorie all that. I could have emailed, but I didn't. Sorry.
Anyway, we missed.
I wanted to tell you in person anyway.
That's right. That's right. So
let's bring our author on.
Okay. Do you remember how to do that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Go down there, press that button.
All right. We want to bring in our guest tonight.
Hello. How are you tonight?
We're really well. How about you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. Very excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you.
You're up in the great state of Michigan, right?
Yes, I am. In the northern part of the Lower Peninsula.
I want to bring up your book right away. Let me find it.
There it is right there. No? Go back. No, the other way. Yep, right there.
There we go. I found it.
We've been gone too long.
The Kingdom of The Kingdom of Orion and the Mystery of the Troubles. First of all, love the cover so much. It's really well done. I love it. It looks so magical, and she looks so beautiful and interesting.
Yeah, it was a nice conglomeration with myself and another author, another artist that put that together. So Brandon Hall, I just want to give a little shout out to him.
Definitely. Yeah, very, very nice. When did you decide that you wanted to be an author? Because this is your first book, right?
This is my first
published book.
Yes, yes. And, I've always been intrigued with the idea of writing, and I'm sure a lot of the authors that come on say that they've been writing for a very long time, and I will say I've dabbled in it throughout. I did a lot more poetry when I was younger, I actually turned away from writing when I was in high school because I received some bad reviews back from a story that I had submitted to one of my teachers, and they said that I wrote like I spoke, and so therefore I needed to fix some of that. And so I kind of walked away from it for a while, just dabbled in some stories.
What teachers can do for good or for evil. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Joe Conjol says, please tell me she's reading tonight. Her voice is so soothing. Yes, Joe, she is. She is going to read from her book. Well, that's too bad because your voice is your voice, no matter what it is.
Right. And so I just worked on it over time. And this book actually came out of the idea of sharing a message, though. So a couple years ago, I was crafting a nonfiction book, truthfully, about some of the ideas that I have now sprinkled throughout this book, and it just wasn't working very well. It kind of sounded like all the other books out there about self-help and getting in touch with your emotions and such, and I thought, sometimes it's better if you sink into a story to really absorb the ideas within from the character's point of view and from the triumphs and the adventures and the failures that they go through. And so that was how I came upon the idea of let's try it in a fiction book. And then I was blessed with this idea of a story, and it just started coming from my soul. And then here we are.
That's awesome. Marjorie Deering says, "How funny, Joe. I was just about to comment on Jessica's voice."
That's so nice. That's good to hear, actually, because I am attempting to do an audio book of this with my voice. So we'll see how it comes across, but I'm hoping to have that done in the next couple months.
That'll be awesome.
Have you started that yet?
I have started it. I do have about 16 of the chapters that are in review mode. So they're recorded, but I have to go through and edit them now.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It's the formatting too. Have you studied up on the formatting so that it doesn't
I've
get
been
sent
looking
out?
into it, yes, and seeing all of the different odds and ends that you have to make sure all the T's that are crossed and the I's that are dotted, and so I'm sure it will take me a while to do it, but it's been fun to attempt it
Yeah,
anyway.
if they bounce it back, it takes just as long again to get the next approval.
Sure.
You have to have the exact right
boy.
amount of minutes before
Yeah.
the chapter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just
Moments
be
of
aware.
silence.
Moments of silence. Just be aware of that because
Thank you.
we went through that. But audiobooks sell really well. Joe Conjo said, "Great minds, Marjorie." That's right. So, but yeah, I think audiobooks are very, very popular. We have a son-in-law that's the only way he reads is through audiobooks.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I will
Yeah.
say for me, I've tried audiobooks personally. I'm more of a visual learner though, so I do tend to like to have the words in front of me. But
Oh,
but
yeah.
for a story, more of a fiction book, I think it would be easier to have the audio because you're just running along with the story, not trying to remember facts, etc.
Well, yeah, and you can listen to it when you're on your way to work or even while you're working. If you work from home, you can listen to a book and, so a lot of people like it. I prefer to read, but I prefer to read on Kindle, which is funny.
Oh,
And
okay.
Rob prefers to read a book. He
I
likes
like paperback.
he likes paper. Marjorie
Oh,
Deering says, "Ideally, I think it would be perfect if every author could narrate their own work. Only the author knows exactly how they want each line to sound." I agree 100%.
Very true.
You
That's
know
true.
what word is accented. It's like the difference between texting to someone and speaking to them.
Right.
They don't know what your inflection is and what is important to you. And yeah, that's what I think too. But not all of us have great speaking voices, so
Lovely voice.
I hate my voice.
Yes.
I don't listen to this podcast afterwards, and I don't watch it. So
That's not a very good promotion for the show. It's kind of anti-promotion.
I love doing it.
Okay.
I want everyone else to watch it and listen to it. I just don't want to have to see myself or hear myself.
So you want to give us a little peek into what your book is about?
Sure. So really, we're transported to the land of Mar, which is a continent that's a pretend made up continent, of course, in the northern Pacific Ocean. And on there are three different countries: Avalon, Sarnia, and the Kingdom of Orion. And the book really follows the adventures of Esme Halley, who is the main character, who is a self-exiled princess from the Kingdom of Orion, because her upbringing was full of tumult and chaos and catastrophe, and she had to get away from it. And now that she's living in Avalon, she notices that there's a lot more chaos and tumult happening now again as she's an adult. And she believes that somehow her mother and her aunts, the sisters three, who are the rulers, the queens of Orion, are somehow mixed up in it. But because she hasn't had any contact with them, she has to go on a discovery or take an adventure to figure out what is causing the troubles, how is her family mixed up in it, and then how can she fix it to help put the world back in the right place.
Very awesome. That sounds great. Joe Conjal says, "I hate my own voice, which is weird considering how much I like to talk." LOL. Yeah, but I think I could beat you, Joe. I know we talk about this a lot, but I talk just as much, if not more, than you do. We both talk a lot. And when we're both in the same meeting, it's going to be a long night, folks. So that sounds really good. Is there magic happening? I mean, give us an idea
There
of what.
is. It is a fantasy, and so it does have a decent amount of mysticism and magic. Esme herself comes from a female bloodline full of magic, and each female in their family has a special gift, but then also has the ability to do basic magic as well. And then also just being with the Kingdom of Orion, there's also some gods and goddesses from the Greek background that kind of come into play here and there to help spice things up a little bit.
When it was Orion, I thought maybe it had something to do with aliens, but then, that's the way my mind goes.
Right. I have heard that before. And so, when I was writing it, I didn't think about it. Obviously, I was thinking about the constellation, and then Orion
Yeah,
himself plays a part throughout the series. But I have heard other people ask, "Oh, does that mean, the alien part where they come from the belt of Orion, etc.?" And I'm like, "Well, no, not this story, but maybe one in the future. I don't know."
that's what a lot of people think, that where the aliens that may or may not be visiting our planet right now are from, is the Orion, the belt of
Yes.
Orion. So, I mean, it's a big deal, and the ufology community, everybody talks about it. So I just wondered that when you had actually, as I was reading about it, I was like, oh, maybe that's something to do with it. But
Sure.
no.
Well, no, not in this story here, but yeah, Orion always has been my favorite constellation, and I believe that's partly where some of the inspiration came from. And then just thinking about his life and all of the chaos and catastrophe he caused throughout. And in here, there's a little bit of a love story with him too, with the goddess Artemis. And so I kind of took some of that. Historically, I try to keep it to what their myths are about, but I also intertwine my own story to help fit within the history of the kingdom.
Joe has a question. He said, I might have missed this if you said it, but did you take any sort of how to record your own audiobook type of course? If so, which one?
That's a great question. No, I actually have not taken a course, but I did do a lot of research on different articles and looking into best practices just online, really. I just did a lot of Googling at this point. But I do think, even though, like I said, my recordings right now are rough, and so as I go through the editing phase, I'll want to go back to that research and perhaps take a class. And if I find one, I'll let you know.
Yeah. How are you finding keeping everything quiet while you?
I was going to ask that.
While you record, we would love to do it. We hired someone to do our book that we had that we have on audio, and I just don't know how we would make this quiet. We have this studio, but it's definitely not soundproof.
No.
So.
Right. I've actually asked my husband to build me a little soundproof room. So we're in the process of working on something like that. But I just choose very carefully the hours of the day that I record. When the traffic is low and when my husband's at work and the animals are taking their naps. And I just try to find the most quiet place to then record it. And I work from home, so it's easier for me to be able to pick certain times of the day to do that.
Right. I've heard people use quilts. They'll just put up a bunch of quilts around a little area and just, like around their desk even, and just record in there.
Yeah.
So that might work.
That's true too. Yeah, I'll have to try that as well. And definitely not near any windows if possible.
Yeah. Well, not all of us can have our own at-home studio that's soundproof, and
no, that would be nice.
Right.
It would. But I agree with Marjorie. I think everybody should narrate their own work. And
in their spare time.
In their spare time, yes. I just realized it's almost time for our first break. And I was just going to ask you another question. Marjorie said, and quilts might help when you feel like banging your head against the wall.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Authors never feel like banging their heads against a wall, only all the time. That's funny, Marjorie.
There you go. Well, speaking of Marjorie, the first commercial is about Marjorie's book. So we need to take a break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go away, folks. We've got more to talk to Jessica about.
Yeah.
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small coal mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than three-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with 2 faces of the Jaguar, the Lost City, and the Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
And we're back. Oh, I like all of those commercials.
They're wonderful.
They are wonderful. Yes.
So are you ready to read?
Sure.
All right.
I'm going to read a couple different snippets from chapter 1 just to give everybody a little bit of an idea of the story itself. I'll skip here and there just to make it brief. I know I don't want to take forever. All right, chapter 1, The Library of Sarnia. The warmth had receded and frost now covered the land. Icy winds swept across the hills of northern Sarnia, a calling card that the seasons had shifted and autumn now owned the day. Swirls of frozen air whipped fiercely across the uneven terrain, slowing the trek of a small group of weary travelers fighting through the tiny tornadoes with all of their might. As they climbed, a solitary sign of cheer floated down upon the breeze from an unseen messenger. Welcome, it called, from a destination unknown, as the winds pulled apart the waves of sound. Glancing up in search of the greeting's origin, Esme Halley gasped as a blast of frosty air smacked her swiftly in the face, stinging her eyes and stealing her breath. Stopping momentarily to regain her composure, she tucked back a few locks coaxed from her thick scarlet braid, and buttoned every one of the fasteners on her plaid wool coat, thankful she had prepared for the weather. "Hello," the female voice called again, its owner still invisible to the travelers. "I'm so glad you made it." The gusts grew stronger with each step, showering the 3 companions with leaves and other bits of nature as they continued their trek up the hill. "Whoa!" Alex, Esme's cousin, grabbed a low-hanging tree branch to keep his balance after a powerful burst almost knocked him off his feet. The drafts were exhausting, both rushing him along and trying to hold him back at the same time, and he was ready to be out of the weather. "Why am I here again?" he grumbled mutely. In front of him, Esme and his twin sister Ava were using each other as a tether, pushing or pulling as needed against the breeze to stay upright. "Man, this wind is strong. Are we almost there?" he yelled. But the wind swallowed his voice, so no answer was given. At the summit, the trio stopped for a moment to take in the scene. In the distance was their destination, the Library of Sarnia, a massive stone structure that dominated their view, looming over a wide swath of lush green grounds. Below their gaze, at the main door, they found the source of the voice. A neatly dressed woman with rosy cheeks and a sweet smile on her face stood with the door open, watching the group intently. Clutching the front of her cardigan to keep out the wind, she fluttered her other hand in the air, trying to catch their attention. Her sepia-colored bun and bright blue eyes both seemed to shake with anticipation at the new visitor's arrival. Esme was tickled by the juxtaposition of the woman's bright and happy demeanor amongst the brooding sky and a menacing architecture. This had to be Miss Brindle, the head librarian, and the person they were on their way to see. While this was her first time seeing Miss Brindle, her voice was unmistakable, a merry lilt that betrayed her Irish upbringing. Far from their first interaction, the woman had grown close over the multiple times Esme had reached out for assistance and information from Sarnia's endless library archive. A senior researcher from the Avalon Institute of Culture, she was constantly contacting universities and libraries all over the world, and Miss Brindle was one of her favorite connections. It had made her happy to have an excuse to call on the lady who always made her smile, but this time it was for personal purposes instead of a work request. "Hello there," she called back with a wave. "Thank you. We're happy to be here." Trotting up the concrete steps, the three travelers made their way to the top walk that led to the entrance of the medieval-looking building. Glancing from side to side, Esme took in the vast lawn speckled with large oak trees dwarfed only in size by the library itself. Looking behind her to make sure her cousins were keeping pace, she could tell from their wide eyes and dreamy smiles that they were also taken in by the beautiful scenery. It had been a while since any of them had seen so much green. Their homeland, neighboring Avalon, had been in a downward spiral over the past few years, leaving it in a state of ruin. Shining, beautiful towns and cities were now crumbling, and their once beautiful parks and forests had been devastated. Only wide swaths of dying trees, scraggly grasses, and empty fields remained. This was the reason for their trip, to help understand the mysterious invisible disease that was threatening to destroy their home. Although it would be lovely to take a moment to enjoy the lushness of the grounds, the wind was much too angry and the sky was threatening rain or worse. "Anyway," Esme said silently, "that isn't why we're here. Focus on finding the book. It might be the key to solving these troubles and returning Avalon to normal. Then there will be time for a relaxing vacation." She sighed, willing herself to keep up a sunny disposition, although it weighed on her how long she had been on this journey and how much worse the troubles had become over that time. The trio had been searching for the past year for any literature that mentioned the kingdom of Orion, and Esme had recently discovered a historical text about the kingdom in the Library of Sarnia. Recentering her thoughts on what was ahead, she reminded herself of their mission, crossing her fingers that Miss Brindle had a key to helping them solve the mystery. They were racing against time to save their homeland, the island continent of Mar, from the throes of disaster. 2/3 of its countries, Avalon and the kingdom of Orion, were now both living under an umbrella of darkness and terror, and Esme was determined to find out what had happened. She had a strong sense that this pain had started in the kingdom and hoped this book could help her find out how to restore things to normal.
That was very nice.
Very interesting.
Yes, I liked it. I like the way you write. That was
Thank you.
Great. Really, that was so good. Marjorie Deering says, "Nice job, Jessica." Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marjorie.
And it sounds like such a sweet story, too. I liked it. That was really fun. Your teacher was wrong.
Well, thank you. I have practiced a lot since then, though, so maybe she was right back then.
I don't think so. That's not people. You need to encourage creativity in artists. You don't need to tell them you can't do it. Michael Jordan was told that he couldn't play basketball by the high school coach. So,
Right. Thankfully, if I'm usually told I can't do something, it makes me more curious about how to do it. So perhaps that was what drove me a little bit.
well, that's a healthy way to think. Joe Conjal said, "Wonderful reading, perfect voice for the type of genre." I agree, Joe.
Definitely.
Really. really good. So did you decide to go with a publisher, or have you indie published? What was your publishing?
Sure. I did do indie publishing. I currently have a company, my own consulting company, and so I opened a phase of that to be Maven Source Publishing, and so I was able to publish under my own name, and went through the whole Amazon Kindle situation, and I also did upload finally to Ingram Spark, but that one was way harder than Kindle was, I thought. The formatting was just a beast to work through.
Neither formatting is fun to work through.
No,
You have to have them both
that's true.
accurate. So were you reading from a hardcover copy or a paperback
From a
copy? Or
paperback. I have
yeah,
not done a hardcover yet. Right now, I just have the paperback and then the Kindle version as well.
we've never done a hardcover, but a lot of people do and really enjoy having them.
The hardcover seems daunting to me to format it.
Oh, yes, yes.
So much
I
more
know
to
I
it.
thought I was going to be able to use just the paperback stuff and be able to just stretch it a little, but that's not how that works. So I put it aside for now, and my hope is maybe when I'm coming out with the next 2 books within this trilogy, then maybe I'll go back and do a hardcover eventually.
So were you so excited when you got your first paperback, your box of first paperbacks?
I was
Yeah.
extremely excited, yes. And I will say I went through kind of a trial and error type thing where, you do the proofs, and then I got a couple of those, and then I read it, and of course you find the first couple mistakes and you're like, "Oh my goodness, how did I go through all of this?" And then there's some mistakes here. But then I went
It's
through. What was that? I'm sorry.
it's easy.
Yes. Yes,
You
because I
always
just
find
was reading
mistakes.
just the other day and I found another mistake in this current one. So,
Yeah.
it's just a never-ending story, but you just keep going with it. And thankfully, when I first printed back in January, and I did find some mistakes, I was able to re-upload pretty quickly after I fixed them.
Yep. We all go
But
through.
yes, having it is just incredible to see my name and to see my story, and just every time I go back to read it, it still kind of feels new to me. It's like, "Oh my goodness, I wrote this." And then I go back
I
to, "Oh, I forgot I wrote
know.
this part."
It's so fun, isn't it? It's the best thing. I love being an author. Joe Conjal says, "Welcome to my world, Jessica." LOL.
Sure.
Welcome to all of our worlds. We all do that.
That's right.
And the funny thing is that because we co-author, we're constantly going over the chapters back and forth between each other, and still,
So we have two sets of eyes on it.
but I do have to say a lot of the problems come from my typing. He's a much better typist than I am, and I just make all kinds of typos, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I can
Right.
actually spell people. I really can.
Of course.
I know that said is SAID, not SAUD, but for some reason I always hit the U key instead of the I. I have no idea why. It's just like frustrating.
Right. Well, I will say one thing I learned is to make sure I have characters that have different starts of their name, because there's 2 characters in here. Iris is the grandmother, and Ivy is one of the daughters, the queens of Orion. And I got all the way through printing everything out and didn't realize I had interchanged their names at a very important part of the book. And so I was devastated. And I had to go and find a couple of people that I knew bought it right the first day. Obviously, it was more my family, so I could kind of pinpoint it. But I had to go in there and make the changes for them because I felt so bad that I had done that. But thankfully, that's all taken care of now.
Well, I hate to say it, but on the last book that we just wrote, I changed the name of one of the characters, his last name, probably 15 times.
Oh,
And
wow.
finally, Rob said to me, "Will you decide what this guy's last name is?" Because I changed it so often. I thought I had named it one thing and I'd named him another. So fortunately, we were able to go and see how I'd written it and change them all to one names.
Oh,
We
good.
wouldn't have multiple characters.
Sure.
Would have been very confusing for people. Who
Oh,
is this?
definitely.
But
Right.
those
Well,
are
it
the
just
kind of things
felt right
that
the one way, and then it felt right the other way, right? So you just had to decide.
So I'm going to ask the question that I'm surprised Joe hasn't asked yet. Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Ah, nice question. I will say I tend to fall more in the plotter category. Um, I'm a project manager by trade, and so I'm used to putting together project plans. And when this idea came to me, I created a spreadsheet and I put all the characters that I could think of in there and started putting, what are their identities and what are the major plot points of the stories and such. And so I have almost like a project plan where you have milestone where it's like I'm going to hit this, 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 and this as I go through to get to this ending. But then I allow some of my creativity to still flow as I'm going through and writing the scenes and figuring out the characters' motivations, especially the supplemental characters. That might take me into a little bit of a twist. As long as I can get to that next milestone, then it's okay however free I want to be.
That's interesting. Yeah, we kind of know where we're going. Well, we know where we're beginning and where we're ending and have an idea how we're going to get there. But I don't think I've ever considered doing milestones or anything like that. But as far as the spreadsheet, yeah, that's definitely, we do that before we even start writing, as all of the characters, what they look like, what their personalities are like, the coloration, their ages, and
then
birth dates
as
and
you
death
add
dates
characters,
if
you
they
have
have
to
them.
remember to go back and put them in there. So
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So that
Yes.
is what we have done. Joe wants to know, Jessica, what have you found is your biggest challenge with marketing your books?
Goodness, it's hard to pick just one, but
Yeah.
I think just finding the right venues and manners in which to share the message. I'm trying lots of different things right now just to see what sticks. Like I've created flyers that I've taken on trips with me if I'm around town, and I just put them up on little boards. Or I went and visited my my old college campus, and did the same thing. And then I've been doing some. I did a couple author fair shows, and then I also did some just regular, like I'm doing a superhero con this Saturday. And I tend to have a little more luck at the superhero cons or the more fantasy themed shows there. But I will say just getting the word out and getting feedback, I think, is something else too. I would love to have people who have read it now telling me, what did they like about it? What resonated with it? And that sometimes feels like pulling teeth. And so I feel like it's always me, my imagination, trying to think of what do I think people are going to like, and then putting the marketing together based upon that.
We got some feedback from someone who asked, did we mind feedback? And we said, nope, we really enjoy feedback. And I can't say what the feedback was because it would be a huge spoiler
Sure.
to what happened to one of the characters. But she actually wanted the story to end a different way than we ended it. And we said, so did we. But this was the better ending. But she felt, and this was so great, she felt exactly the way we wanted people to feel when they read that part.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
She felt really sad, and she should have felt sad at that part. So,
Sure.
That's really, I think, exciting for an author when you're trying to evoke a feeling and they get it.
They get it. They understand.
They understand it, and they're like, "That's really."
And they
sad.
communicate that to you. And,
yeah,
because they don't always communicate that to you. They're
Right.
reading it themselves, So
Right.
that doesn't come through very often. Yeah.
But I think that you need to write your story, and feedback is really great. And that's where beta readers come in and are handy, because they can tell you, I don't understand this part, or this doesn't make sense to me. And then you can refine it so that people do understand. Let's get that one last comment.
All right, then we're going to go to break.
Okay. Oh, it's Janet Byers, and she says, hey, everyone.
Hi, Janet.
Hey, Janet.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
Okay.
You came just in time for a commercial.
Just in time for a commercial break.
And then Joe has an idea.
Joe has an idea for you. We'll go ahead and do it. Here's an idea for you. If you don't have business cards, get some with a QR code that goes right to your Amazon page.
Yes.
Or your website. I find people are more likely to scan the QR code faster than typing the .com all the way out. More hits.
That's great.
And Joe does have that on his business cards.
Yes.
And who do we use? He uses the same people we use.
What's their names?
Okay, Joe, both of us are too old to remember the name. Tell us the name, because they do QR codes.
Yeah.
And Janet Byers, one last thing. Happy to be here, LOL. Well, we're really happy that you are.
Okay. Now it's time for break.
Yeah, we'll be right back, and then Joe can tell us where we get our business cards from.
Okay, here we go. Don't go away, folks. We got more to talk about.
Yeah.
An unforgettable mystery thriller that will transport you back to 17th century England. Introducing Dream of Courage, facing fear head-on, your passport to 17th century mystery, mayhem, and murder. Follow Robert and John Rushworth through Leeds' bustling Brigade district, where danger lurks in the shadows, embodied by the thief-taker Jacob Wilding. You will laugh, you will cry, and be in awe of the twists and turns. Its meticulous attention to character development, emotional nuance, and the unfolding of the story's layers promise a compelling and emotionally charged journey. The U.S. National Times said, modern writers usually don't know what it was like to live in the past, but Rushworth Brown does this with great skill. Uncover the secrets of Smythe, the enigmatic tavern keeper who sends Robert to the Haven, to the pirate Captain Girlington. Will he outwit danger in the nick of time?
Have you wanted to publish your story? Have you thought about self-publishing? Today is your day. 5-star Amazon review. Self-publish your ebook on Amazon for free in 2024. This ebook is available on Amazon. By Becca L. Jones.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back.
We are.
And Joe Condrell said Vistaprint. And you know what? We should know that. We've used them for over 10 years. And we not only use them for our podcasts, but we use them for our books and for Indie Book Source and for Tampa Bay Spirits. So Marjorie Deering says, yep, they're good. They are good, and they're not expensive. Joe Condrell said, I like the QR code since everyone has their phone on them when you give them the card, and it's more convenient for them to just scan the code.
There you go.
And Vistaprint does that for you. So
that's great.
You don't have to do any formatting or anything like that or be all techie about it, which, yeah.
Which is a good thing.
It is a good thing. Yeah. Some people also have had great luck doing flea markets and farmers markets and that sort of thing, and just, renting a space there and selling their books and autograph them. That's an idea for you.
Very much so. Yes, I'm always looking for different opportunities. And, this year I was really trying to bring awareness to this book, the first book, right? Because it is part of a trilogy. And so hopefully, as I'm out there more and talking about it, then people will be excited about that. And then when I have book 2 coming out, hopefully next year, then there'll be some beta readers, right, that want to be a beta reader, and I'll be able to expand the audience even more. And so that's my plan. But yes, thank you for all this insight. This is wonderful.
Okay. Let me put your website up. All right. So if you want to reach Jessica, and I suggest that you do, her website is www.kingdomoforion.com. And for those of you who are listening and cannot see this banner, that is spelled KINGDOMOFORION. Yes. And you can reach her there. Do you have all of your social media there and that sort of thing?
I do. Yep. You can link to my Facebook and my Instagram and LinkedIn from there, and find out all about different media that I've done for the book, and even some information about the next 2 books that are coming as well.
That's good. Do you have like a newsletter or anything like that, or blog, or?
I haven't really dabbled in that too much. I do have a blog for part of my own company, and then I also have a newsletter for my organization, but I haven't thought about really doing that for my book, and I should. I think that'd be a good idea.
You can LinkedIn is a good platform for that as well, to do a blog.
Oh,
nice.
It's
pretty easy. We've got one on there, and it doesn't take much maintenance. I'm not as good at it as I should be, nor as often as I should put out stuff. But
yes, I think with my blog, I have about 15 test ones in there that I want to publish, and I just haven't got finished for that. But it definitely takes some work to make sure you're having that consistency out there.
Right.
Are you on LinkedIn as an author?
I am actually, well, it says on my page that I am, but I don't have anything special set up with that, because I originally had it set up just because I was in the corporate world.
Of your business, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should do it as an author too, because it's really popular with authors, believe it or not.
Oh, that's great to know.
It is a really
untapped. I think, yeah.
We need to get on Instagram. We're not on.
Well, we are on Instagram.
Well, we're on Instagram. I mean, we need to be
automated.
on there more than.
Oh, sure.
You can take on that responsibility.
No.
Yeah.
We should be on there more. You can do it. I don't want.
Yeah. Social media is such a beast to deal with sometimes, I'll say. I was off it for quite a while, honestly, and then I got back on the last couple of years to help promote my business and the books and all of that. So I'm getting back into it, and it's a lot.
All of this marketing stuff is a lot.
It is.
You think the book is difficult, and then you try to market it. You're like,
oh yes,
writing the book again.
It's kind of like having a kid and then having to raise the kid.
Right.
Parallel there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, lots of practice it takes. And I started doing that, like I said, a couple of years ago when I created a program called The Essential Elements of Life. And I was trying to build awareness for that. I still am. And that is actually some of the concepts that I talk about in those classes are things that I've sprinkled throughout the book to help people get in tune more with the emotional plane of existence that I think we all run from at different times. And so really getting in touch with that. And that's why I started the blog and all of that. So I'm still working on expanding that with the Kingdom series here, but hopefully it will continue and grow.
Yeah, it's never ending. And I think that it's difficult for authors to promote themselves, I think it's difficult for us to say, this is a great book and you'll love this book. And
yes,
we're taught not to do that, you know?
Yes, it's so nerve-wracking. That's why I always feel whenever I'm talking about it that I'm asking people to play pretend with my imagination and hoping that they're gonna like it too,
Yeah.
and you never know.
Right, right. But you like your book and you like your characters, I'm sure. I mean,
Yes,
we all do.
very
We
much so.
love our characters and we love our books. And, you know, so we should be able to tell people this is a great book. I think you really like it. You know, and not every genre or every book is for everyone, but I
Right.
do believe that every book has an audience. I do believe that every story has an audience. And I also think every person has a story to tell. So,
Oh, for sure. Yes, and helping people to realize what those stories are. And that's why I'm hoping this book will even inspire other people to think about what is their path and how
mhm,
can I reach out? How can I help? What is my message that I'm
mhm,
trying to share with everybody?
mhm. Yep. We had a couple of people at the con that we were just at that, you know, said, I really want to write a book. And we said, keep in touch with us.
Go for it.
We'll help you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And that has
We
been
had a
one of
lot
the
more
best
people.
things about I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, we had a lot more people say they wanted to learn how to ghost hunt than
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Well, it wasn't a book fair. It was a
it was a horror
horror
con.
con. So
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just gonna say that that's been one of the best things about doing doing the podcasts or even the author shows is just meeting other authors and people who have gone through that same adventure, that same excursion of trying to get this beautiful message that they have inside their soul out there so that other people can partake in it as well. And hearing everyone's stories, it's just very inspiring.
Yeah. And most authors that we've met really like helping other authors. They all do. Everybody likes to give each other help. And Paul Hollis is in the audience today. And I don't know, 12 years ago or however long ago that was. I think it was 13 years ago. I mean, Paul was so great when we wrote our first book. We were always saying to him, how did you do that? Joe Conchel says, Jessica, you mentioned you were a plotter. How closely do you stay with your outline versus letting the characters go their own way?
That's a great question. I would say within what the characters are going to deal with within the book, that is something that I really plot through. How they're going to solve the mystery and what clues they're going to come across and where they're going to go with it. But their own internal story, I let kind of manifest as I'm dreaming those things up. And so I actually just the other day switched the motivation of a character in book 2 because it just seemed to fit better with how the story was coming out than how I'd originally imagined him. So I do let them have some freedom and flexibility to show me who they really are and then find a way to intertwine that within the plot that I've created.
Marjorie Deering said writing a book might be even scarier than ghost hunting.
And ghost hunting, yeah.
Sure.
Which I don't agree with that
Marketing
100%.
a book is.
Marketing.
Oh, yes.
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 So you mentioned that you've already started. Have you finished book 2 or just?
I haven't finished book 2, but I do have it plotted all the way to the end, and then I have the different scenes and characters and such so far, and so now I'm just working on becoming them, if you will, when I'm writing through the dialogue and trying to make sure, what exactly would they say in this situation. So I still have a decent ways to go, but I would say I'm probably about halfway done.
So the name of that will be The Kingdom of Orion and the Mystery of Magic.
That's right, yes.
I'm wondering, does that mean we'll see more magic in the second book than in the first?
That's very true, actually. Yes, you will. You'll be brought into the idea. Esme, in the first book, she has a set of skills that she's learned, most of it on her own, because again, she was very disconnected from anyone that could teach her the magic that she does. And so in this book, she needs to get ready for this next phase of the adventure. And so she has to kind of go back to the basics and find somebody to help her learn and put something in all the gaps that she has of her magical knowledge. And so you'll see a lot more of that throughout this book, and just meeting some more of the magical characters as well.
I was just thinking that life is kind of like that, though, isn't it? Whether we're working with magic or not, we discover things about ourselves, and then we have to learn how to use that, and how to grow into that. And you're always going to be finding new things that you have to bring out in yourself, and
Yes, and even when you're Yes, I'm sorry. And I was going to say, and even when, our environment changes, even if we think that we haven't changed, the skills that we've had before may not fit exactly right with the changing environment, and having to deal with, okay, how do I change myself then to meet the moment? And how do I figure out a way on this path forward that is different than what I had to deal with before?
Mm-hmm. We talked about that a little bit before the show, that COVID was a huge impact on society. And I think that we were all in that place of, how do I maneuver in this now? How do I go forward from here? How do I remain healthy? How do I keep, my relationships healthy when we can't even be in the same room together?
Exactly. And that's a little bit where a lot of this came from, these ideas. And like I said, it does intertwine some of those essential elements that I found really the source of a lot of the sticky points that we run through in life, right? And how do we then go back to the beginning, if you will, and really figure out, how do I deal with these changes? How do I deal with these new expectations? What are my new expectations for the life that's now changed so much, and the environments that shifted? And how do I navigate that successfully?
Yeah. And I think we have all changed. I'm different than I was 5 years ago. My outlook is way different.
Right. And we need to recognize that too. And I think some people who may not be recognizing that they have changed as well, they may be finding those struggles, with trying to figure out, again, now who am I now?
Yeah. Well, this has been really good. It's been really great meeting you and hearing about your work. Thank you so much for joining us. Hearing a storm brewing out here outside, so
sure.
I think we're going to need to call it a night.
Before the storm calls it a night.
Before the storm does that for us. So we're going to move you over to the side here and stay right where you're at till we come back with you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's been wonderful having you on the show.
Thank you so much. Just a reminder about WDJY tomorrow, 9 o'clock, if you're in the Eastern time. WDJYFM.com or 99.1 FM on the radio in Atlanta. And next week, join us right where you're watching right now for an interview with Sarah Driscoll. And I guess that's about it. Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about?
I've got lots of things I'd like to talk about, but we don't have any time. There is another comment here.
Okay. And
Joe Conjal says, great show. Thank you, Jessica. And of course, Robin Joan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to
Thanks,
everybody in the
for joining
audience.
us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And I guess until next time.
That's all, folks.
Night.
Good night.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.